Number 1. Ex-Detroit cop caught for taking bribes. A former detective of the Detroit police, Mike Pactelis, was arrested by the FBI in connection with an ongoing investigation that targeted Detroit City Hall, law enforcement, and municipal towing operations.
This towing investigation, the former cop in question was arraigned here earlier today, and right now he's free on a $10,000 bond.
The investigation, which was dubbed Operation Northern Hook, aimed to uncover public corruption within the Detroit city government. Officer Pactelis, who had been assigned to an FBI task force before retiring, was the 5th person to be charged in this investigation. The FBI alleged that Officer Pactelis received $7,724 in bribes, including a used car and $3,200 cash from an unnamed towing industry figure and an undercover FBI agent.
Hey, sir, what have you to say about these bribery allegations?
Sir, I have no comment right now. I'll have my lawyer reach out to you as soon as possible.
In exchange, Officer Pactelis was accused of providing sensitive police information, including vehicle registration data from a restricted database called Michigan Law Enforcement Information Network, LEIN, to the towing industry figure. The former detective was charged with bribery, which was punishable by up to 10 years in federal prison. Officer Pactelis had worked as an officer for the Hamtramck Police Department, where he was arrested and placed on administrative leave. However, Hamtramck Police Chief Ann Moyes did not respond to a message seeking comment.
Is it frustrating to hear that a former Detroit cop is facing charges for bribery from a towing company?
Oh yeah, it's most definitely frustrating because like these people that we pay our tax dollars to, that we're supposed to trust.
In October 2021, Pactelis had reacted to the ongoing corruption investigation on social media when 2 former Detroit police colleagues were arrested and charged with taking bribes from the towing industry figure and an undercover FBI agent saying, "Wow," in his post. Before his tenure with Hamtramck, he was a detective assigned to an FBI task force. After a 21-year career with the Detroit Police Department, Pactelis retired in 2021 before he was placed under arrest for his actions. The vast majority of police officers are hardworking, dedicated public servants. Our office is committed to prosecuting those officers who cast a stain on these officers and who betray the public trust by accepting bribes, Acting Attorney Sima Motion said in a statement. Detroit Police Chief James White had expressed disappointment with the allegations, but had supported the findings of the investigation. "I would like to emphasize that the alleged actions of one former police officer do not represent the vast majority of the exceptional men and women of the Detroit Police Department who go above and beyond the call of duty for our community each and every day," he said in a statement. While the case was still ongoing, Pactelis had been released on a $10,000 unsecured bond following a brief appearance in federal court. He pled guilty to the charges earlier this year, which, according to court documents, means that he carries a maximum sentence of 10 years in prison and a fine of $250,000. It's incredibly disappointing seeing the lengths some officers will go to just to make some extra bucks. Up next, we've got a big story of a massive drug operation by the FBI in Puerto Rico that rounded up dozens of police officers. Number 2. FBI rounds up corrupt Puerto Rico police. Almost 1,000 federal agents apprehended nearly 130 people, including over 80 law enforcement officers accused of providing security to drug dealers on a U.S. territory where authorities were already trying to combat rising crime and rampant drug smuggling.
Would you consider this like a police cartel or something like that were operating in Puerto Rico?
No, just police officers who wanted to make fast buck.
Among the suspects were a dozen prison guards, 3 National Guard soldiers, 2 U.S. Army soldiers, and civilians. This marked one of the largest corruption cases, as dozens of Puerto Rican police officers were arrested by FBI agents in connection with allegations of aiding drug traffickers.
Puerto Rico, an American territory, is often used as a stepping stone for South American cocaine and heroin that are destined for the U.S. mainland.
The Puerto Rican police force was already grappling with allegations of discrimination, brutality, and incompetence at the time. Eric Holder, the U.S. Attorney General at the time, stated that this was the largest police corruption investigation in the FBI's history. "We will not allow the corrupt actions of a few to destroy the good work of so many," he said at a news conference in Washington. "The people of Puerto Rico deserve better." The charges related to the distribution of more than 5 kilograms of cocaine, with the indictments alleging that the law enforcement officers provided security for drug deals in exchange for payments ranging from $500 to $4,500. The suspects were accused of selling their honor for drug money, with U.S. Attorney Rosa Amelia Rodriguez revealing that they did not seem to collaborate as part of a single conspiracy. Instead, she claimed that several groups of corrupt officers came to work for traffickers separately. Shock and dismay were palpable on the island as the governor and other local officials hastened to denounce the alleged corruption. Police officers had been charged with crimes in the past, including providing security to drug traffickers, but never on this scale. The arrests were expected to disrupt the flow of drugs through Puerto Rico, with traffickers using it as a stepping stone for South American cocaine and heroin destined for the U.S. market. Calls for reform had recently mounted, as several high-profile abuse allegations had emerged.
And according to the FBI, in at least one case, a corrupt officer told an undercover agent he had killed a man.
The Civil Rights Division of the U.S. Department of Justice was pursuing its investigation into an alleged pattern of abuses, including the use of excessive force, unconstitutional searches, and discriminatory policing, which could lead to the federal government taking a role in reforming Puerto Rico's police. At the news conference, Puerto Rico's chief FBI agent, Luis Fraticelli, asserted that police needed to significantly improve recruitment and implement periodic lie detector tests to restore public confidence. The island's police chief, Jose Figueroa Sancha, who helped launch the federal investigation as a deputy director of the San Juan FBI office in July 2008, took steps to improve oversight. He praised 63 honest officers who participated in the investigation as heroes. Meanwhile, retired police officer Wilson Maldonado called the arrests a sad and deplorable moment for the department, which he attributed in part to a lack of supervision, while police officer Carlos Cotto said the department needed to provide more training and punish officers for incidents that should lead to dismissals. Knowing that these officers were in cahoots with drug traffickers and drug dealers is just shocking. But things get even crazier in our next story, where LA deputies were arrested for abusing and beating jail inmates on top of obstruction of justice. Number 3. FBI arrests sheriff's deputies. 18 current and former Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputies were facing criminal charges as part of an ongoing FBI investigation into allegations of civil rights abuses and corruption in the county's jail system.
Los Angeles, it is the country's largest jail system, but the feds say the inmates were not the only criminals there. Several former and current deputies with the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department were just arrested as part of a major sting that targeted everything from corruption to inmate abuse.
The suspects were accused of unjustified beatings of jail inmates and visitors, unjustified detentions, and obstructing a federal investigation into misconduct at the Men's Central Jail. A total of 4 grand jury indictments and a criminal complaint have been filed against the defendants. These charges came after the FBI's investigation into excessive force and other misconduct probes into the jail system, which started in 2011.
One of the individuals, Gabriel Carrillo, he was a visitor to Men's Central Jail, and he was beaten severely by the Sheriff's Department personnel.
Officials said the arrests were related to the abuse of individuals in the jail system and allegations that sheriff's officials had moved an FBI informant into the jails, possibly to thwart their probe. The suspects were expected to be arraigned later in U.S. District Court. U.S. Attorney Andre Birote Jr. had noted that these incidents did not take place in a vacuum. In fact, they demonstrated behavior that had become institutionalized. He added, "The pattern of activity alleged in the obstruction of justice case shows how some members of the Sheriff's Department consider themselves to be above the law." One of the federal indictments had named 7 deputies charged with conspiracy and obstruction of justice. The 18-page indictment had listed 2 lieutenants, one of whom had overseen the department's Safe Jails program, and another who had investigated allegations of local crimes committed by sheriff's personnel, 2 sergeants, and 3 deputies. All 7 had been accused of trying to prevent the FBI from contacting or interviewing an inmate who had been helping federal agents in a corruption and civil rights probe.
They took affirmative steps to hide the informant from everyone, including the FBI.
One of the investigations involved trying to see if a deputy would accept a bribe to provide the inmate with a cell phone. The indictment had alleged the inmate was moved to hide him, and false entries were made in the sheriff's databases to make it appear as if he had been released.
Brown said once his cover was blown, he was moved at the jail, had his name changed in the prison system, and was interrogated by deputies on whether he planned to testify in court.
Sheriff Lee Baca had acknowledged mistakes in a county commission review of brutality reports. However, he had defended his department and distanced himself personally from the allegations. He said he'd made improvements, including creating a database to track inmate complaints. Baca had also hired a new head of custody and rearranged his command staff.
I'm not afraid of reality. I'm only afraid of people that don't tell the truth. There is no institutional problem within the Sheriff's Department when it comes to correcting itself.
Retired Sheriff's Commander Bob Olmsted had said the arrests underscored the high level of corruption that had plagued the Sheriff's Department. He added that he had tried several times to notify the sheriff and his command staff about ongoing abuses and misconduct in Men's Central Jail, but his concerns had fallen on deaf ears. In 2012, the American Civil Liberties Union sued the Sheriff's Department, claiming the sheriff and his top commanders had condoned violence against inmates. The organization had released a report documenting more than 70 cases of misconduct by deputies. A month before, the county announced the appointment of veteran Los Angeles County Prosecutor Max Huntsman to head a new office of Inspector General that would oversee the Sheriff's Department. If you want to support the channel, please subscribe. Also, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time.